everyone, and welcome to June's virtual So Fun Club. We're so glad that you took some time out of your day to watch our wonderful presentation here. Now, for this month, we have the usual suspects, so to speak. We're going to have our show and tell at the end of it, and we will have a drawing. And this month, we are having this wonderful Floriani set of 10 spools, and it is our, I think it's called Spring and Summer 2022 set. Now this is valued at $39.99, and if you are lucky to be the winner of the drawings, you will be getting those towards the end of the month in June. But I want to let you know, in order to receive them and get into the running for the drawing, you will need to post a picture of whatever you're working on that you would like to share for our So Fun Club show and tell. And this is the virtual part. So it can be a quilt you've made, it could be some machine embroidery, anything that you're proud of that you would love to share with others. We would love to see it. It's always my favorite part of So Fun Club is to see what everyone's working on and to see all the different designs and all of your many talents out there. So I'm hoping that you will take the chance this month to like, comment, and share, and also post a picture of your show and tell in order to win one of these two sets of our Floriani thread. And on that note also, we also want to remind you that you can always go to our website to view any classes or any events that are coming up. And in order to do that, you just need to go to moors-so.com, and you can click on the top where there's classes. We also have the tab for events. You can also see what's going on in your local stores. There's calendars. There is so much information for you to access on our website. And that website, once again, is moors-so.com. So for this virtual So Fun Club for the month of June, we have a very special guest, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Heather Snow from Purple Hobbies. Hi, Heather. How are ya?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I was so excited. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how I learned about your wonderful company. So my girlfriend was traveling in New Orleans, and she said, there's this wonderful tool. I know you haven't seen it. It's brand new out on the market, and it's perfect for chain piecing. And I thought, okay. And so she picked it up and she brought it back for me. And I haven't stopped using it. I absolutely love it. So I'm so glad that we have you for our virtual So Fun Club, and we can see all the other items that you have for us today.
I'm so glad your friend introduced you to the Blade Saver thread cutter.
Yeah,
And let me tell you a little bit about how we created that.
yes.
I live in Northern California, and unfortunately, a few years ago, we had a tremendous number of fires. Well, as everyone knows, we've had a lot of fires, but they started a few years ago, and I was making donation quilts, and I was
Mhm.
making lots and lots of donation quilts. And I was chain piecing like crazy, and I was going through rotary blades like crazy, and I didn't like any of the chain piece cutters on the market. And I thought there's got to be a better way to cut all these pieces apart and something to do with these blades instead of throwing them away. And that's how we came up with the Blade Saver thread cutter. I have two sons that helped me work on the design, and I told them what my goals were. And my youngest son, Zachary, is actually the one who decided that we should make it a stand as well as a thread cutter. Let me grab you one to see. This
Yep.
is what we're talking about. This
Yes,
is
it's
the
so
Blade
cool.
Saver thread cutter, and it comes like this, and it has magnets so that when you pop it apart, take it apart, put the lid in, and then you set it up here, and then you do your chain piecing, and you cut the pieces apart here. And I'm going to show you how to use this in a little bit, but before that, I want to show you some of the other items that we have ready, because the thread cutter was the beginning, and then we just kept making more and more products, and we're having a ball. Every time I try and do a project and I run into trouble, I say, I wish there was a better way, and then we make a tool to make it easier.
And
so
you make it. Yeah.
and we make
That's
it.
incredible. That's incredible.
First thing I'd like to talk to you about is the third hand binding tool. This is something that you take your binding and you put it inside, and it folds it in half and holds it while you're ironing. So it acts like a third hand holding and folding your binding for you. We have several different sizes because of customer requests. 2.5 inches is the most popular, and you'll see maybe on the side here it says 2.5 inches. But
Yes.
people also have requested 2.25 inch, all the way up to 3.5 inches, down to 1 1/8 inch. So it's really fun. What you do is you take your binding. It's best if you stitch your binding together on a diagonal so that you have a nice thin seam, a little bit of bulk, as little bulk as possible, and press it open. And you start by taking your binding, you put it inside of the tool. I'm trying to show it to you here. You fold it in half and slide it in the tool. And we have a little pinhole so that you can grab your scissors or a pin, and you can slide it through to make it easier to load it. And then it comes through and you straighten it out a little bit. The slot in here is exactly 2.5 inches. So when it comes through the tool, it's exactly folded in half for you. It has a wing nut on the side that you use to adjust to put it on the edge of your ironing table. So I'm going to adjust my camera here a little, and we're going to put this on the edge of my sewing table. It doesn't have to be super, super tight. You just want it, you tighten it just enough so that it holds it. One of the easiest ways to load this is cut a little piece off and slide it through. You want to make sure that the bar is, this is how it's going to get loaded on your table. So make sure you're loading it from the side that's going to go in the table. And also make sure that your seams are going to be folded in, because when it's folded in half, you want to make sure they're going to be on the inside of the binding.
Correct.
So then you take your end and you can cut it to make it easier to go through. Slide it through here. There are little holes on channels on either side that you can use to pull the fabric through. You can use scissors or a pin. And
very cool.
The fabric is exactly the same size as the slots in the tool. So you kind of pull it through. So that's going to
give you a perfect fold.
It's going to give you a perfect fold in half. Yes.
Very nice.
So now you've got it loaded. You slide it back on your table, and remember, this isn't a death grip. It's just sitting on the edge of your table to hold it for you. And you're going to pull it, and it's folded in half. So this is your third hand holding it in place. And then you use your iron to iron your binding. Now, rather than just ending up with a giant pile of binding, we have a binding wheel here.
Another binding wheel. Yes.
The binding wheel is going to hold your binding for you while you're getting it ready, and also while you're stitching it on your project. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind with this is the bottom here is meant to help guide your fabric into the slot in the center of the wheel. I'm not sure. Let me see if you can see that little slot.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we take our fabric, we go underneath here, and then we slide it into the slot. And the slot is exactly 1 1/4 inches. And let me turn this a little bit. So we have it inside the hole, inside the slot, underneath the bar, and we're gonna just twist. We're just gonna turn the fabric and until we get to a part that's not ironed.
I see.
And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna press it.
It's a group effort there.
We're gonna pull it I'm gonna pull it over off the edge of my little mat, and then I roll it up and then press some more and roll it up until I have all of my binding done. And
So
when I
what you
get, yes?
I was gonna say, this is gonna change the way I do my binding because I have it looped around my neck, on the floor, and I have a whole system where it has to go around me on one side so that it doesn't pull, my hair or get caught up in my seat or anything else that it needs to be. So this is gonna wrangle that binding. Not only does it fold it perfectly, but then it goes into the tool. That's just so unique. I love it, Heather.
Thank you. And because we did this on an angle, it goes right through the tool easily. I didn't even feel it going through. It slipped perfectly through. Once you're finished, so we're gonna fast forward here. When you're done, you can get enough binding in this for a king size quilt.
Oh, wow.
It could get a little puffy. So if
Mhm.
it's getting loose, you just kind of tug on it a little and it'll tighten, and then you just wind it up a little more and you pull and to tug and to fit more on there. When you want to stitch it on your machine, you don't leave it underneath. You take it out from under. You just slide it this way. So this way it'll slide easier. It'll come off very easily at your machine. It just glides. So you just set it next to your machine when you're stitching it on your binding, on your
Mhm.
project, and it just comes right off. So no more tangles, no more problems.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
I don't know about you, but I always end up with lots of extra binding.
Uh-huh.
I always do more than I need, and I want to store it. So some people have requested extra wheels, so you can pop it off and you can store your binding. You can store your binding on a wheel and then just put extras in, put a
Yeah, how
new one
clever.
in.
That's
So that way you can
wonderful.
have multiples. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is over
While you're
on this
getting
table.
Yeah, while you're getting that set up, I wanna talk real quick about the prices on that. So, let's go over the, binding wheel. As you all know, for our So Fun clubs, we always have special prices. We negotiate those prices with the vendors, and then we're passing it along to you, all of our customers. And, for the binding wheel, retail is normally 25, and we have 19.95 for that. So that's the binding wheel. And then the other thing, the third hand binding tool, normal price or retail is 13.50, and we have it for 10.79. So once again, these are amazing prices. And let's get back to Heather and see what she has for us next.
Okay. The next thing I want to show you is quilt block markers. When I'm doing a project, when I'm making a quilt, there are frequently many different pieces and it can be hard to keep track of them. So we created these little quilt block markers that are letters of the alphabet and numbers, and you put your pin through. We call them pinnable quilt block markers because you slide a pin through and you attach them to your fabric so they don't fall off. And in this case, I'm doing a project that has the same shapes, but they're in two different blocks. So all of my one block I have with green, and with all the other block I have with the blue, because the shapes are the same, but the blocks go together differently. And I was getting them confused because the shapes are the same. So by using different colors, I was able to keep my blocks separate. And one thing that I use my quilt block markers a lot for block of the month clubs to keep track of month 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done some projects that have gone all the way up to double M, so A through Z, and then A, B, A, C,
Oh,
all the way,
wow.
so I've had to use multiple quilt block markers to keep track of all the pieces. And one of my favorite ways to organize my quilt block markers is have them sitting out on one of these little felt pads with the pins ready to go. And that way I don't have to hunt and try and find where's my A, where's my B. I've got them lined up because these are the ones that I use most frequently.
Well, Heather, I could have used those today because I was working on a block that had a lot of repetitiveness and I needed to keep my rows in order. So I always call it organized randomness. So I could have used these pins and I can't wait to get my hands on them to keep my rows in order. And I think that's great because I know all of us out there when we're doing blocks, people use Ziploc bags. There's all these different ways, but these pins are perfect because they keep them in order. You have the color coding, and obviously you're going to want more than one color. You're going to want multiple colors for the same reason that you just expressed, Heather, that when you're working on multiple things, it keeps them organized and you know exactly where you're going next. So very cool.
And we have a rainbow of colors available so that you can get a
Very
color,
nice.
whatever color contrasts with your fabric the most.
Yeah. Okay. So you were saying something else about them that you were going to show us. No?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
We use pins with our quilt block markers, of course. And my favorite way to store pins is in these little magnetic pin cups. I was at a sewing class one day, and the woman next to me, every time she reached for a pin, she'd say, ouch, 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 because she was using a magnetic pin cup where it wasn't a cup. It was one of those magnetic holders where all the pins are lying flat, but they were all topsy-turvy. And so every time she reached, she would stab herself with a pin. And this was a 5-hour class. And after 5 hours of her saying, ouch, I just thought there's got to be a better way than these. This poor woman needs something better. So I went home and created a magnetic pin cup. But because I was going to classes, I didn't want it to just be sitting. I didn't want it just sitting around. First of all, so they're, magnets
that's
hold
pretty
them all
amazing.
in.
Yeah. Yep.
So they hold them in place, but this isn't something you'd want to take in your bag to go to class. So we created these cases. So when you close it, you lift it up and you twist it, and then you put your little lid on, and now it is perfectly safe to take it in your bag. It's not going to go anywhere. And I don't know about the rest of you, but my son's cat thinks that everything in the house is his personal toy. So
Exactly.
this is a way that we keep the things safe when we're not in the room to protect the cat.
So show us one more time up close because I'm pretty much so in awe. So they're exposed there, and then you let them drop down and you twist.
You let it drop down. Sorry, get my fingers out of the way. You twist it to hold it in place, and then you put the top on, and it's held in place.
How clever. Not only is it great for classes, but for traveling. If you're traveling across the country and you have handiwork, your pins can be contained and exposed easily. And you're not going to lose them because they're in there pretty good as far as the magnet. They're not going to jump out or get loose. And I've had that on some of my pin holders where you do something and they go flying around. So I love that the heads are only available for when you're pulling them out. And who wants to go ouch? No one wants to go ouch.
Right. Now, I do have to say the magnets will hold them in place, but you can't just throw the pins at them and expect them to magically line up. I have had people ask me that. You do load the pins. So if you get one of the, some pins come wonderfully lined up where, half the pins are facing one direction and half the pins are facing the other. Those are nice and easy to load in here. This will take an entire pack. So if you buy a new set of pins, this will hold an entire set of pins. But
Very
like I
cool.
said, you have to load them point down. Now they
Now,
come in several
I was just
sizes.
gonna say, show us those colors because I know that was what I was gonna say. We need to see the colors on these ones because they're pretty special.
These are special colors. This is a limited edition multicolor pin cup. So you'll see on this side, it's sort of a pink, and on this side, it's blue. This one's called Blue Raspberry. This one is called yellow, pink yellow. I don't remember. I'm sorry. This has this is two different colors. And then there's one more color combination that we have, which is a green blue, where it's
Very
green
nice.
and blue together. But I also wanted to show you that there are multiple sizes for the pins. So everybody has their different favorite pins. And and I love pins. So I have many different pins. I've got these fancy silicone head pins, and I have these glass head pins, and my butterfly pins are one of my favorites. And they're all different lengths. So I created a little cheat sheet here that shows you there are the two main sizes. One goes up to 1.5 inches long. The other goes up to 2.25 inches long. And the reason there are two different sizes is if you try and put a little pin, in a giant pin cup, it's going to get lost. They're going to lay over on their sides and they're not going to stand up as nicely. The whole part of this design is so that when they come out, they pop like a flower to make them easy to grab. So you want to make sure you get the right size pin cup. So
Okay, so
standard
we have
pins.
Standard and we have the extra large. Or the
Standard
large
and
cup.
large. Yeah, standard and large. Now you said extra large, so I have to show you. We get lots of customer requests for, I have pins that are bigger. I have this thing that's bigger. So we are actually working on, it's not out yet, but we are working on an extra large. Let me show you. This is the standard. Here's an extra large. These are those giant quilt pins, the giant pearlized pins that are used for leaders for quilts. So these are giant and they're fat, and they just don't fit in they don't even fit in the large, but you can see when you look at them, there's just the pins. This is one pack of pins, and there's no way that they would fit in this little pin cup. So, so yeah, we're working on an extra large.
Multiple sizes. Well, let me talk about the prices real quick. So we're going to talk about the quilt block markers. The prices, the retail on those are $9.50, but our wonderful So Fun Club price is only $7.59 for those quilt block markers. And keep in mind, you're going to want to buy a couple packages of those, and you're going to want different colors so that you can sort your quilt pieces correctly. And then those pin cups, which they're just amazing. The pin cups for the regular size retail is $20. Our So Fun Club price is only $15.99. You'll be saving your fingers, and those pins are going to be right there ready for when you need them. Now, the limited edition large one is retailed $24, but we have it for $16.49. So, and we have multiple colors. All of these items that we have today with Heather from Purple Hobbies. Now, what do you have next for us, Heather?
I have too many rulers. I love tools. I love rulers. I have too many rulers, and I was having trouble finding them. And so I created some ruler stands. So, the first ruler stands I saw didn't have any handles on them. And so I loaded them up. And when I went to lift the ruler stands, I couldn't lift them. There was nothing to hold on to. So let me show you. My ruler stands have little tabs so that you have something that you can use to lift them. They also, because I have so many rulers, and I figure maybe somebody else does too, I made the tabs interlockable so you can stack them one in front of the other, and you can have as many rulers in a row as you want. And the tabs are still accessible, but they don't take up extra space on your counter. So I have, you can see here, these are some of my favorite rulers. and I have them lined up. This is one of the 5-inch. So this is a 3mm by 5-inch ruler stand because it uses my giant 12.5-inch rulers. And then I also have, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting in the camera's way.
I want to add real quick, have a question on that. So that's holding the 6x24 ruler standing up on its end, and it's
Yes.
completely supported, isn't going anywhere. And I too have a bunch of rulers. I think, you know, it's one of those things that you accumulate the more you do quilting or machine embroidery or any sewing, is all your tools, and rulers are one of those things where I have drawers full of them, but I have certain ones out at all times that I have ready to go for when I need them. And I've had a stand where they topple over. It's not supportive enough for it. And I love to see that 6x24 is standing up, you know, just like a soldier, and it's going nowhere.
I use it a lot. I love it. We do have little silicone feet on the bottom to help keep them from sliding. Yeah, to help keep them
and there's 10
from moving.
slots in there? 10
There's
slots
10
to hold?
slots. Yeah, these each have 10 slots. And there's also a 3-inch version because it doesn't have to be as wide as your rulers. And
Correct.
so for these go up to 8.5 inches. I'm using on this. And these are my, almost every day I use these rulers. These are the ones that are out all the time. But like you said, I had drawers full of rulers, and some of them I didn't even know what I had. And so I was really excited to pull them out. And one of here I have we call this modern art too. Look at this. These curvy rulers. These are my quilt rulers. So this is 1/4 inch thick. And so it takes up a little bit more space. But I want to show you, look, these are curves. I ended up making, they're staying still. They didn't stay still with the first rulers I made. These have, the bottom is curved so that it keeps them from rolling away. But notice you can put flat items on here too. It doesn't have to be a curved ruler.
Right.
And I want to show you my gargantuan rulers. I had to make a 5-inch version because these, I'm going to measure this real quick. This is I have a 21-inch ruler. There are times that I use this on my long arm. And so I have the whole set together, and this is on a 5-inch version.
Oh, very nice.
And see, so, and again, I've got my straight ones and my flat ones and my curved ones.
So the great thing about it is if you are a long armor, or if you do some of the Westerly rulers where you're doing it on your domestic machine, we know that those rulers are thicker. And Heather has the rulers that support both of them. And with the curved element, that's amazing because, like you said, if you've tried to put a curved ruler on one of the regular stands, you're lucky if they stay there. Sometimes they roll away or they don't behave, so to speak. So I love that it's curved and it keeps them locked in place.
Yes, it's especially nice when you lift them. There's no way you can lift the curved rulers without the curved ruler stand. Yeah, so that's and well, you can put the thin ones in the thicker. So if you get the one that's a 1/4 inch, here, see, we've got 2 different thicknesses. If you can put thin, you can actually fit 2 rulers in the thicker stand if you wanted. So you can mix and match.
Very good. And those, we know that they come in multiple colors that we'll go over later when you're ordering these wonderful products. But let me go over the pricing for the ruler stands. The 3-inch regular size ruler is $12, and our special So Fun price is $9.59. And then we have one that is 5 inches that is also for regular standard rulers, and that one is retail $18, but we have the So Fun Club price that is only $14.39. And then we have that curved one. So the curved ruler, if you have long arm rulers that are round, or even if you have other rulers that you use for quilting that are round, it's the perfect thing to hold them. They all have 10 slots, and this one is for the small size is $14 retail, and our So Fun Club price is only $11.19. And then the last one we have, which is the flat ruler stand, the large size, to accommodate those long arm rulers and also for rulers on your machine, is retail $22, and our So Fun Club price is only $17.59, excuse me. And like I said, we have multiple colors that you can pick from for most of our products here with Heather. Now, Heather, I want you to kind of go over once again. You have been a quilter, you're an embroiderer, you obviously do long arming, but these items, once again, they've come out of necessity, and you and your sons have basically created them, designed them, and you also make them. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We 3D print most of these items ourselves. We have what's called a print farm, which is a whole bunch of 3D printers all connected together printing for us. So that gives us the flexibility of offering many more colors, because
Mhm.
we don't have to do we don't have to ship off to a manufacturing site and have thousands and thousands made. We can make just a few of a special color.
So basically, made here in the USA, you know, a
Mhm.
female owned business,
Yep.
supporting a family. The list
Mhm.
goes on and on. That is just a wonderful story that you have, and your products are just cool. Now, I know you have a couple other things to show us, so let me
I
let you
do.
back on track.
Okay. Um, I love to do block of the month and learn things from other great teachers. And during one of my block of the month clubs, we were given a block that was really, really hard to trim down. Now, I'm used to, many of us do oversizing and then, you trim just a little bit, but it's pretty much a square that you're trimming to a smaller square. I had a block that was they had us stitch all these pieces together that it was just a big mess.
Mm.
It was awful, and I could not figure out, it was not symmetrical, and I could not figure out how to center it properly to trim it. And I didn't have a ruler of the exact size. It was an odd size, and I was disappointed and frustrated because I felt that I couldn't trim this block the way I wanted to trim it. So I have a laser cutter, and I laser cut special rulers. They're like jigsaw puzzle. They're special rulers that you put the pieces together to get whatever size you want. They pop apart easily, and you make the size whatever you want, and that way whatever block size you have you can trim to. And I wanted to be able to trim on the inside as well as the outside, so there are slots here that allow your rotary cutter to come in and cut, so you can trim. You can do fine tune trimming on the outside, or you can do fussy cut trimming on the inside. And you can get let me show you. This is what the box looks like. It's a little bit of a glare. Multi-size block trimmer. It
Okay.
it comes, I think there are 24 pieces total inside. Um, that has 1 inch through 4 inch pieces that you can connect. And there are two different corner sizes so that you can get half-inch sizes or quarter-inch sizes. And you can mix to get half-inch, quarter-inch, or whole sizes on the inside and outside. And you can make squares, you can make rectangles, and I have a ball. It has saved me so much time and sanity. This is an example of a block that is oversized. And so I can just put it, let's see if I can have the camera here for you. I can put my cutter on top of it, and I don't know if you can see these, but there are quarter-inch marks all along the
Yes.
way, and the
Mhm.
joints are also considered a quarter-inch mark. So you line up your block and line up your little spacing so that you get it exactly spaced the way you want. It's best to use a 45 millimeter rotary cutter, because a 60 millimeter isn't going to go, you can use 60 on the outside, but on the inside, it's best to use the 45 millimeter. And then you just cut along the inside, and you've got your little fussy cut trim that you can do. I don't know what I would do without a spinning mat. So you spin it, you trim it, and then you've got your perfectly trimmed, centered block.
Square on square. Yep. Perfect.
Square on square. And you can, I'm going to just, so I recommend that you use some kind of removable tape. Any kind of embroidery tape is great. And some people really like to use gripping things underneath. There's a product called Grip Strip that I know that you carry that would be handy if you like to have that. It isn't always necessary, but depending on what your fabric is, sometimes fabric, I find some fabrics slip more than others. So there are some times when I like to have that Grip Strip. And what I'm going to do real quickly is show you. So this one was set up for 3.5 inch blocks in the center, but you can go all the way up to 15.5 inches on the outside. So I'm just going to show you. You just pop the pieces together real quick. And the reason that these are a little loose is I didn't want them to get broken. I had a choice of make them fit really, really tight so that you had to struggle to release them, or make them a little loose and make it that tape would be advised. And I feel better using the tape so that you don't break them, because once I started using these, I am hooked and I would not want to ever give these up. So a little bit of tape works wonders. And you can reuse the tape. So a lot of times what I will do is take the tape and put it on my, I'll just put it right on the piece, and then I can peel it off and reuse it. What I recommend is that you put the tape in between the edges so that you can still see. Let me hold this up here.
The alignment marks, yeah.
You want to make sure that you can see the markings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're trimming. And when you have it taped together, then it holds and you can reuse it over and over again. And so the way I have this right now, this is 15.5 inches on the outside, and it's 12.5 inches on the inside. So you could either fussy cut a large block or you can trim a block. And
all of that was contained in that one set of your rulers. Yes. One set of the multi-size block rulers.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. So it's easy to travel with. You don't have to worry about things breaking.
Right. It all fits in here. You might want to look closely at how it goes together, just because, once you open it, I have to admit, it took me a couple times to get it all back in there, because it fits perfectly. Yeah. And yeah, it's a puzzle, but they do all fit in there. And there's a little bit of instructions to get you started. And then there are much more detailed instructions that you can download from the website that actually, if you want help, if you say, okay, I want to do a 2.5 by 6.5 inch block, this tells you which pieces you need, which sides and corners to use to put it all together. So that's a free download on the website to help you out if you would like more details, or you can just play with it and get to the size that you want. So that's our block trimmer.
Very cool. So let me go over the pricing real quick while you're lining that up. So on the multi-size block trimmer, retail of that wonderful set is $70, but that's not going to be your So Fun Club price. So Fun Club price on that cool set is only $55.99. Significant savings for such a great tool. It's going to save you if you're traveling, if you travel when you quilt, or if you go to a place where you're doing classes. That's going to be a great tool to have, because you don't have to lug 18 different rulers with you to class. You can take your one multi-block, tool and be able to get all your cuts that you need. And I love that you can fussy cut a center, or you can square up a block. So it's actually, you know, multiple tools in one. So what else have you got for us, Heather?
I love to embroider, and I have been busy with a quilt that requires multiple colors, and my embroidery machine only has two places to put the spools. So I created this spool holder that carries up to 6 at a time, but then I found that my threads were tangling. So what I created is, I call it a thread cork. You're probably familiar with the concept of a cork that goes into a bottle of wine. Well, this is a cork for your thread, because when you're embroidering, you've got all these spare threads around, and if you don't have them contained somewhere, they can get caught in your flywheel and cause you thousands of dollars of damage. And even worse, you might be out your machine for weeks getting it repaired. So
Oh, and
to
that's
avoid,
devastating.
it is devastating. So to
Yes.
avoid repairs and time without your machine, I created these corks, and the idea is that you've got this loose thread, and there are two little legs. I call them legs, but there's a little slot in the middle there, and you
Mhm.
just take your loose thread and you just put it in in there, and it's like a cork, and you just pop it in, and it holds it for you, so that these threads that are not being used are safely contained while I'm using the other ones. And in this case, these are the 4 colors that I'm using for one block. So that's why I have them all as blue. And then over here, my second block is pink. So these all have pink. So I know that all of these colors go to the pink block. While I was looking around my sewing room, I noticed that a lot of my other threads were getting tangled, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll use a thread and I set it next to my sewing machine, and then I get another one out and I set it next to my sewing machine. And next thing I know, they're all getting cozy and it's a big rat's nest. Now I have my thread corks holding all of my different kinds of thread clean. So not just embroidery thread, it turns out all my other favorite threads are being held
Corked.
neat and tidy now. Yeah, so everybody's corked. So that's just a quickie little, that's my most recent time saver. And they come in a set of 8 colors.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
I
little
love,
thread corks.
because that's one of my pet peeves is coming up and grabbing your thread and there's a little rat's nest and you've got to, you know, unwind and get it all organized before you can even start sewing. So what a great invention to contain your loose threads. And how many of us have had your spool of thread, it loses that corking, or the tab where you lock it in place, and then that's the one that is always mischievous and causes the biggest mess. So having these
Mhm.
corks is going to save you a lot of time and energy as far as keeping your threads organized and together. And just so you know, we have a very special Sew Fun Club price for those. Now, normally they're $12 for that package, but our Sew Fun Club price is only $9.59, and you get all of those corks and peace of mind. And in my book, you're going to want multiple packages of those, because I know I'm not the only one out there that has quite the collection of threads going on for embroidery as well as quilting. So now, Heather, I would love to see those blade savers, which is why I fell in love with your company, up close. And I know that we have multiple sizes. Can we talk about those?
Yes. The original size is the 45 millimeter, because it's the most popular, and that's the size that I was using all the time when we invented the blade saver. And oh, I have to say, we got a patent for it. I'm so proud that it was patented. So we designed it here in California, and I do have to admit that due to demand, we did have to send overseas to have these built. So the injection mold version is not made in the United States, but there are 3D printed versions that we still do make here in California.
Mhm.
Um, and we have 3 different sizes. There's the original 45 millimeter size, and then we had requests for the 60 millimeter size. So this is for your larger blades. And then of course we had to do the little baby 28
Oh,
millimeter
look how cute
size.
that one is.
This one is really fun to take. You can take these on an airplane. They have traveled internationally with no problem. TSA everywhere does not have a problem with these. And let me show you why there's not a problem. When you pop it out, take a look at this. Your finger, I'm going to get close. Your finger can't get in there. You don't have access to the blade. So yes, there's a razor sharp blade in there, but you're not going to get cut and you're not going to hurt anybody with it. So you can use this on a plane to cut your threads. I take this when I'm doing hand sewing, and I don't take scissors. I make sure everything's pre-cut, ready to go. But when I'm doing my needlework and my English paper piecing, I just take this as my cutter and I have no problems. So I want to show you how they come and how you assemble one. How's that sound?
Oh, that's perfect, because I think that's, I mean, one of the beauties of this is that you're getting a longer life out of your blade that you're going to discard because it's worn out. It's not cutting your fabric precisely anymore. Maybe it's got one area where there's a notch where you hit your ruler. It could be a ton of different reasons why we have to change our blades. But now with this wonderful invention that you guys have, we will get more use out of those blades. They won't go to the landfill quite just yet. So show us more.
Okay, so I happen to have a rotary blade that is extremely well loved and is to the point now where it's frustrating because when I make a cut, it doesn't cut everything. And so it's time to give it new life in a blade saver. So when you buy the blade saver, you get blade saver thread cutter. We call it blade saver for short. It comes already assembled. So what you do is you pop it apart and you take the center flower out, and then you take a Phillips screwdriver, and this one happens to be from my koala cabinet for my sewing machine.
I have one
And
of those.
yeah, so I mean, a lot of us have these handy. I have
Yes.
them sitting around, luckily. So I set it flat on my hand, and you just turn to release the screw, take the little screw off, turn it upside down. The bottom of the bolt is going to stay in place because it's in there nice and snug. So you just pop this piece out, and then you take your blade. Now this is where you have to be really careful. You are going to disassemble your blade. In this case, I have one with a nice little magnet. So I'm going to release it, and it's going to pop down in my hand. And I love this rotary cutter because it has a magnet, so it's nice and safe. So I can take it straight from here, turn it upside down, and pop it straight into my blade saver base. And then I put the cover back on the blade. So I haven't touched the blade. I haven't gotten my hand even close to the blade, the sharp edges of the blade. I put my cover back on here. I put the little screw on top, and then I screw it in real quick. It doesn't have to be insanely tight. It's not going anywhere. It's just as soon as you feel a little bit of resistance, you're done. And then you're ready to go. What you do is you line up, there's little thumb holes here for opening this. You line up your thumb holes and the magnets will snap shut. You put your flower in so that the petals are on the bottom so that it's flat, because that will expose one of the blades for you to make it so that it's easy to get to the blade when you're doing your chain piece cutting. And again, notice your fingers, even teeny tiny fingers, are not going to get in here. That was one of the main design concerns, was make sure that this thing is safe. So let me show you how we use it.
Well, I'll add something here real quick. My cat is always into my sewing stuff. And of course, this was a new tool out. And I came into my room, my studio, and it was on the floor and in pieces. And I thought, holy guacamole, if it was a different type of, cutter, she could have potentially really hurt herself. Whereas this one, it's completely protected. There was no blood. She wasn't hurt. And So it's safe around cats.
That's very important at our house too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad your cat was okay. Um, I want to show you how I do my chain piece cutting because, and I'm going to do it this way so you can see a little better. One of my favorite features about this thread cutter is I call it, you bonk it. So you just, the blade was not sharp enough for cutting fabric, but boy, does it go through this thread, no problem. Notice how I'm grabbing it. I pinch, I bonk, I pinch, I bonk, I pinch, I bonk. I now have a nice stack of these. So instead of just a random mess of fabric, my squares are neatly stacked and ready for me to do the next step. So, when I used to cut them, they would be all over the place. And again, if I do it with the triangles, I just take a second to line them up. And as I'm cutting, now they are all perfectly aligned and ready for me to do the next step. So I find it an extra time saver when you do them that way.
That's a great tip for those, and I'm sure lots of people out there that already have your blade saver. That's a great tip for them, and it's also a great tip for anyone that's going to purchase one here with us tonight. So let me talk about the prices of those. So once again, we have the 3 sizes of the blade savers. We have the 45, which is pretty much so what most of you have as far as a rotary cutter. And on the 45, retail is $19.95, and we have it for the special of $15.89. Now we're also bringing in the 2 other sizes of those blade savers. So we have the 60, which is the largest rotary cutter that I think that's out on the market, and retail on that is $24. And you're going to get a better price here at Moore's, and our So Fun Club price is only $19.19. And then for all of you that do curved piecing and you need that 28, the little itty bitty rotary cutter, that one retail is $16, and we have the So Fun Club price for $12.39. And keep in mind, the reason I love these is you're giving your rotary cutter blades more life. You're going to get more use out of them. And I tell you, since I put mine in months ago, it's still as sharp as can be, and I'm getting lots of use out of it. So I love, Heather, that you have brought these products in with us. Anything else that you want to share?
We have been extremely fortunate to have such wonderful support from people like you. And this business of ours has been a dream pandemic job for my sons. My 2 sons work with me. And so we were able to be together, working together, staying sane together, working on really fun projects and getting great feedback from fellow sewists who are finding joy in sharing their craft. So it makes me really happy to help make people's craft a little easier and more fun.
Well, and kudos to you, because I can't tell you how many times I've been sewing and I think, oh, there's got to be a tool for this. There's got to be something to make it easier. But with your know-how, you have the niche where you've taken a desire and made these products for us. And I know that I totally appreciate it. And it's just wonderful that your family's involved, and that the pandemic, oh my gosh, it's been negative in so many different ways, but brought your family together. And it's a great, so we're really blessed that we've had you here tonight, and we want to thank you for joining us for our So Fun Club. And keep in mind, she has that special handout that you can get on her website, so you can always check that out too. And thank you once again for joining us for our virtual So Fun Club for June. It's been my pleasure, Heather, and look forward to seeing many more things from you in the future.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So it's that favorite time of mine for virtual So Fun Club, where we do our show and tell. And tonight I have a helper here who's going to show the quilt, and I'll talk a little bit about it as it's going. Okay, so on this quilt, I basically used up a lot of scraps. I made a log cabin that's wonky, but I decided to add cats. So you see in the center of them, I have a cat, and they're all different which directions, and I did all different types. I did some free motion, added some button eyes, and just had them all a little bit quirky. um, it got rid of some of my scraps. It was fun to do, and it was super easy, just cutting that cat shape out and then piecing it into the quilt, and then just adding a simple border around them. So something everyone can do. So I can't wait to see what you're going to show us this month's show and tell for our virtual So Fun Club. And don't forget that you can be in the drawing to win one of those two Floriani trending colors spool sets. So like, comment, share, and add your picture to Facebook so you can win a spool. Thank you so much for joining us for June's virtual So Fun Club. I look forward to seeing you next month. And until then, happy sewing, everyone.